welcome everyone. And is it 7 o'clock? So if Commander Brown is available, might see you on the screen already. If you're ready, why don't we start with the police department?
Yes, thank you, everybody. Happy to be here. Appreciate everyone's time. Comparing the crime stats, let me share my. There we go.
Right.
There we go. Looking across the crime stats, comparing them to the last 3 months, the only increase has been in the larceny or theft offenses. If you draw, I mean, typically with as we get closer to the holidays, you're going to start to see a lot more theft incidents. But there's a small little cluster right here above the mall in the area of 24-hour fitness. We had a rash of vehicle break-ins in that area. Our detectives have been working on that, and we think we have some good leads on some suspects. And naturally, they're from outside the area, but we're working on that. And that's really the only increase as far as the last 3 months. We actually saw a decrease in some robberies. Everything else has stayed pretty much the same. One thing that I don't think I've ever really illustrated is the narcotic offenses. Those typically are always going to be arrests. So those are proactive arrests. Obviously, the narcotics arrests usually have a relation to the thefts and so forth as people support their habits. Oftentimes that will be kind of an indication of proactivity in the area. With that, the stats there's nothing shocking in the census, nothing that stands out this month in comparison to the other months. So I'll open it up to any questions anyone has.
Were there more thefts this last 30 days than the prior 30?
Yes, there was a few more. I think in comparison to last month, it looks to be around the 15 or so marks, 15 more thefts. And a lot of that is going to be in relation to the mall, especially as we get closer to the holiday season. There's going to be a lot more thefts. There was seemed to be a few more vehicle break-ins around the mall itself as well. So I think I touched last month is try not to leave things in plain sight. That usually invites people to break windows and so forth. If you are going to the gym, try to keep things locked up. Take things, put them in a locker, get some of those anti-cut locks. That make it more difficult for people to break in and kind of harden your property up.
Okay, are there any other incidents that we should know about? I haven't heard anything in particular.
No, for our area, it's been pretty quiet. If you know the Pierpont area, there's been some not fire activity, but fire department activity with some gasoline that's been into the sewers down there. So they've been dealing with that in the Pierpont community. That's been kind of the hot topic in the last week or so. In our area, I don't want to knock on wood or something. It's been relatively quiet for our area.
Have they figured out the source of the gasoline leak?
I believe they may have it isolated to a couple of areas. I'm not sure exactly, from the fire side, and I don't want to speak for them, but they are conducting testing, and they've got to get the sewers vented so they can get down and do some further testing. And then naturally the gasoline vapors are corrosive to other things, so it's invited a whole host of other problems with water lines and so forth. So they are currently working on that and trying to get that area isolated.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for
I see Nadine raising her hand.
Yeah, hi.
Eddie?
So I work for the school district, and I think it was last week there was some unknown threats on social media. And I was just curious, how do you go about investigating that and decrying that they aren't a threat anymore?
So with social media, a lot of people will spread things, and in particular this particular threat that you're probably referring to, the school district put out a press release. We take every threat as a credible threat until it's deemed otherwise. Oftentimes when we start to investigate these threats, usually it'll be a kid that may have posted something to a friend, and then a friend shared it, and then another friend shared it, and someone posted, and then it just kind of spreads like wildfire. And then when we drill down and find the person that originally made the threat, they weren't serious, they weren't joking, they don't have any means to make the threat. And I think just a lot of kids don't understand the gravity as to what they're saying, and the panic that sets in with students and faculty and parents and everything else. And I just don't think they understand what they're doing. But they are very serious, and in every instance that we can, an arrest is made. We do make sure that they don't have any access to weapons. Oftentimes, with the parents' cooperation, the houses are searched, and in some instances where they're not cooperated, and we do write search warrants for houses to make sure that we take the school safety very seriously. So we do investigate every single, and in this instance that you're probably referring to, it was an online threat that originated really in Florida, but there was 25 locations. One of those locations was an Oxnard school that was named, and that was actually several weeks ago. But the message keeps getting retweeted or resent, and then it morphs into something else, and someone heard it, but they never actually seen it. And so we end up interviewing sometimes hundreds of people until we can find down and drill down where they're coming from.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Ren, did you have a question?
It's Ryan. Hi.
Ryan, sorry.
That's all right, Commander Brown. So this may not be for you, so forgive me, but just recently, actually, this earlier today, about a few hours ago, there was an accident on Telephone and Portola. And I live in the corner of Telephone and Portola, and I see accidents there all the time. And I'm not sure if it's like a speeding thing or if it's just because people are running the red. Like, is there anything that I can, or is there anything that's planned for this area so that those accidents don't happen as often?
If Telephone and Portola, if they're, the traffic and engineering with City Hall is typically the ones, if they need to change traffic patterns, if they start to see a high likelihood of collisions based on some of the collision data, they can change traffic patterns. We can also, do photo enforcement in the area to try to discourage red light runners. Sometimes it could be, certain times of the year that sun sets in certain areas and it obstructs the view or gets in the way of traffic lights. So there's several different factors that go into a lot of this. Some of it is education, some of it is enforcement, and then some of it does end up becoming kind of an engineering aspect. So I'm not sure. It's been a while since I've been in traffic, and trying to drill down on what the root cause of that's going on. That would just have to be something to pull the data from traffic engineering to have them take a look at that.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And Brown, if no one else has a question, as a follow-up to the last question here, is there a specific area within the college district that is a particular traffic hazard where you've seen a higher number of accidents or close calls?
Trying to, usually a lot of your arterial roadways like Main and Mills, just because of the volume of traffic, you tend to have a higher likelihood of collisions, just like because there's more cars in the area, it's more congested. So Mills and Main is usually an area. Anytime that you're getting, you know, a lot of pedestrians interacting with traffic. There could be concerns. That's why you see a lot more of the pedestrian signals that are going up. And in fact, there's a brand new pedestrian signal that, and I forget exactly where it was on it's on telephone. There's two of them in the city. I just heard about them the other day, that are starting to kind of roll out, where there actually are red lights, to help slow down traffic, for pedestrians to cross. So, you know, going back to my traffic days, you know, speeding on Telegraph was usually kind of a thing. Speeding on Foothill was usually kind of a thing. And you saw that Foothill, they actually dropped the speed limit down behind the college. A lot more of those radar boards are coming out, you know, to show drivers that they need to slow down. And then Telephone in Victoria, usually another major corridor, lots of right-of-way violations and so forth.
Thank you. That was a lot of information. I don't know how you guys can keep track of it all. So, any other questions? Sergeant Brown here. Okay, with that, and unless you have any closing statement, we'll let you go. And I know you had a long day already, so
Thank you. I appreciate everyone's time, and I'll see you in person next month.
very good. Thank you much. Let's see, it's Ventura College. There's Vanessa. Thought I saw you go by once.
Hi, everybody.
Take it
How
away.
are you?
good.
I'm so happy to be here. Thanks again for letting me come and share information about what's happening at the college. And if you hear any screaming, I apologize. That is my daughter, but my husband is taking good care of her. So I just wanted to start off with some updates. Oh, I hit the wrong button. Let me go here. There we go. So I wanted to share that for student housing, as you guys know, we got approved with a few things in terms of an architect. So we've really hit the ground running for the student housing project, and we have a couple of dates coming up that, you know, we do invite the community to join if they're able to. The first is a design charrette, so that's coming up. We have two tentative dates, the afternoon of October 14th and the morning of October 15th. Now, we'll have the exact time hopefully before you guys send out the all the notes from this meeting, so that way you guys can share it. We are always inviting the community to come join us for this, but I'm hoping to have that soon. We're just waiting to get confirmation from our architect on that, and so we're not gonna have those exact hours, but we know it's gonna be in the afternoon of October 14th and that morning of October 15th. The other upcoming event, which we are again really asking community members to join, is a community focus, and those have some tentative dates of November 13th and November 14th. And so I'm hoping by the October College Area Community Council, I have those tentative dates with those finalized times and hours, as well as location, so that folks here on the council can join us. So I just wanted to share those upcoming dates, and some more details will come in regards to that. I also want to share enrollment. So we're past our census date. And so right now the college is seeing a 5% increase over last year's enrollment. So we are growing. Last year we grew about 8% over last year. So altogether we're growing. We're definitely recovering from the pandemic, where enrollments at Ventura College just dipped, which happened everywhere really. A lot of colleges throughout the state, especially community colleges, but we're seeing the recovery, so it's really great news. I just wanted to share a little bit about some of the fall 2024 class offerings by modality. So at Ventura College alone, we have 377 face-to-face classes, hybrid courses. For those who don't know what hybrid courses are, it's generally when students have both online as well as face-to-face courses, generally throughout the semester. In the course itself, the faculty will set up the predetermined dates where students come to campus, and other times they meet online. So it's kind of right in the middle between that face-to-face as well as online. And then online, of course, is just fully online courses. And right now that is the bulk of the course offerings that we have this fall semester. So I just wanted to share a little about of how that modality looks. We also have seen that enrollment, as I see, you can kind of see through here throughout the years. That's actually for you to take a look at for fall 22, the lightest here. Then we have the fall 2023 and then fall 2024 up here, and that's those increases we're continuing to see. So at the last meeting, I talked about a few different programs, and I wanted to chat a bit about our PACE program again. This spring semester, we're actually going to be starting 3 programs. We have business, psychology, as well as sociology. And for the PACE program, which is a program for accelerated college education, it's fully online. It is affordable for students, and also it's flexible. We do have enhanced support that's readily available for students, and that's part of our 0 textbook costs. And again, sorry about any screaming you may get. We do have the 0 textbook cost. That's part of this. So a lot of our students are able to get this PACE program at relatively 0 cost to no cost, or low cost, excuse me, is what I meant to say. If anybody knows anyone interested, we do have some upcoming information sessions coming up October 8th from 6 to 7 p.m. And so it is fully on Zoom. So if you have anybody who's looking to complete this program quickly, we see a lot of adults, a lot of parents who raise their little ones that are coming back to college to complete a program themselves. Or also people who have completed some college, but they're really focused in terms of a business, a psychology or sociology degree that want to complete it with an accelerated group. The last thing, I'm not sure if I mentioned this in the last one, is that it's a cohorted program. Cohorted is one of the things that we really see is great within PACE. So it's like the built-in community that students get to take, get when they're in the program itself. So students start together, they advance in each court together as a group, and then they complete together, which is really nice about our cohorted model with PACE. So anybody who'd like to join, we got our Zoom information sessions coming up with that QR code that's there. I'll share that as well, so it could be distributed, but that'll get you right into the information session. For VC Athletics, we have another home game this Saturday. So it's Pirates versus Allen Hancock College, and Saturday, 6 p.m. here at Ventura College. We have had our cheer club. So we have cheerleaders at all the home games. It's really exciting. So hopefully we have community members that will join us. If not, definitely putting it out there that we'll have a home game on Saturday. So you may be hearing the fun festivities at the athletics center. Couple of other athletics that we have coming up for women's soccer, Antelope Valley College at 6:30 p.m. That one actually just passed. That was yesterday. Women's volleyball, we have, hopefully they won, 6 p.m. this evening. Football versus Hancock College, as I mentioned, on Saturday. And then women's soccer versus Moore Park at 6:30 p.m. We have women's volleyball versus Moore Park at 6 p.m. On October the 4th. Performing Arts has some really wonderful events coming up. They actually have a full lineup on their website that I'll share, but I wanted to pick a few that are upcoming. There is the quintet, the Laurel Project Quintet, that they'll be having on Monday, October 7th at 12 p.m. There's also the music theater for Sunday in the Park with George. There's 4 upcoming performances. And so we have that one, as well as a Ventura College Orchestra that will be on Saturday, October 6th. And I did want to show you guys, the Performing Arts website has the full upcoming performances that are live. I do want to share, it's a really wonderful opportunity to look at what's coming up. We have some dance performances, wind ensembles, and all of this is through December of this year. So I know next month is the last meeting before CACC goes dark. So I definitely want to share that's up to date. And if you're looking to join some of the performances that are coming up, please definitely take a look, and the ticket purchases are here. That's all I've got. So I was wondering if anybody had any questions.
Just as soon as you have the dates for the housing meetings, that would be wonderful to get those.
Absolutely.
Do you know when you'll have the dates?
We did ask the architect this week. We're hoping that they can confirm before the end of the week.
Oh, good.
So, Kathy, I'll try to get you those dates. And the dates are final. The location and time is what we're finishing up
Okay.
those details. So,
Great. Thank you.
of course, Kathy.
Thank you, Vanessa. Any other questions for Ventura College?
Is that, hi Vanessa.
Hi.
First of all, I didn't hear any of your kids, so it was totally fine that you kept
Oh,
going.
good. She's right outside the door and is in a mama phase
Yeah,
right now.
yeah, no, we didn't hear it. So in those meetings for the housing, is that involving us in the feedback or is it just presenting to us? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, so the first ones are the charrettes. So we're having the architect kind of go through some of the creative process, and that's for folks here on campus at Ventura College. And then the community focus ones, we are definitely inviting the community. They're invited to both, really. One has a focus for Ventura College's community. The other is for members of our community at large within the CACC as well. But we are, it's really going to be getting information feedback from members. The first is just more focused on VC specifically.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for asking.
Any other questions or comments? One of the issues that comes up periodically in the college area is parking.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've heard your side of it too. Are there any plans to expand parking on campus or to somehow divert to other ways of getting to the school? And you have a very large enrollment this year, and which is great.
Yeah, so part of the upcoming design process and getting feedback from the community members will really be leaning in with architect as well as those kind of looking at plans. So right now I don't have like definite any answers in terms of that question, but it's something we are taking fully into consideration.
Thanks.
Mhm.
See a question from Nadine.
So I do have some questions. How are you going to determine who will be eligible for housing on campus?
Yeah, so there is a few different things that have been shared previously for the, determining students. The biggest one is need. Students need, so they'll be working really closely with the financial aid office. And then from there's been other proposed ideas on how we can determine that. But even that, it's still in process of how the team is going to be looking at that. Nothing's been finalized. But it's something we're considering because definitely want to be fair, make sure students that do show a need are are prioritized when it comes to housing, and so many other factors that need to be taken into consideration. And so we really also hope to get some feedback from community members on that piece as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Ventura College? Oh, I think you answered them all. Thank you, Vanessa.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for having me, and have a wonderful rest of your evening.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, let's see. Next item is the council business and announcements. Unfortunately, I don't have that list, and I'm not sure who does.
Kathy, you got something?
Do you want to go first? Because you've got the big project.
Well, are you going to talk about the hybrid meeting? If so, that maybe should go first because that's a part of that, or you want me to talk about
Okay,
that? Yeah.
okay. I want to let everyone know that we plan a hybrid meeting at CAPS for our October 23rd meeting. So that's an opportunity for people to attend in person at CAPS if they're so inclined. Since it's hybrid, you can choose to join online. We're hoping to have Eric Nasarenko at our meeting, so it would be great if as many people could come in person. I'm gonna wait for a couple more things I have here.
Okay.
Why don't you?
Yeah. Yeah. I'll do the food pantry. As part of that meeting, as we've done once before, we are also going to have a food drive. As you know, a lot of what we do here is just informational, but some of it is to also serve the community and be good neighbors. And consequently, we've had food drives, particularly when we have face-to-face meetings. This idea of food insecurity is not just a catchphrase, it's a real thing, and you don't have to go to Africa or LA to find it. It's right here in our neighborhood. So we feel like we need to continue to remind everyone that that's part of our community as well, and urge you when we have the next meeting, the hybrid meeting, to join us in bringing some food, canned items and other things, which we will get to the food pantry on campus. I'm going to share my screen now to give you a quick look at the kinds of things. Can everybody see that? Can you see the
Yes.
food drive screen? Okay. Just to remind you, these are the kinds of items that they request. Let me give you a quick rundown of those, and then I'll also post a PDF on the chat. So if you don't want to take all these down, I understand. You can just download that PDF and open it up or even print it out and take it to the grocery with you. But for now, let me remind you that they're interested in canned vegetables, soups, tuna fish, pastas and sauces, beans, rice, peanut butter, power bars, nuts, canned fruit, boxed mac and cheese, and cup of noodles. Cup of noodles seems to be a favorite for whatever reason. They really like those. And again, to remind you, that would be at our October 23rd meeting, 7 p.m. at the CAPS Media Center, 65 Day Road. If for some reason you can't attend the meeting, you can drop those items off early if you can't make the meeting, and they'll make sure that we get them. Any questions on those items or what to bring to the food drive? Okay, I'm going to stop sharing. And again, I will post that PDF if you want a record of what those items are to remind you. And of course, we'll be reminding you when we send out emails and our meeting notice next month. Anything else on the food drive?
Yes, I would also mention that you can find, you'll be able to find a reminder on social media as well, on Instagram and Facebook.
That's right. Yeah, yeah. We'll be reminding you there as well on our website.
And Russell,
Facebook page.
don't you also post something to Nextdoor about those goings on as well?
We will, yes.
So we're gonna get the word out.
That's
Thanks,
right.
Russell.
Yeah. And we also wanted to, I don't know if you were going to mention this or me, Kathy, but we also wanted to remind you that on our website is a link to the City Council forum that took place a couple of weeks ago. If there are any of you who didn't get to the forum, there is a video of it. And so you can go there, link to it on YouTube, and get the same information. And we also noticed that there is an event coming up tomorrow night sponsored by the Chamber. The Young Professionals Group in the Chamber is sponsoring something they're calling Politics 101, all you need to know before you vote. And they, in part, I think in large part, are going to go over all of the ballot measures. So it's getting close to election time. There are 10 ballot measures. And as you know, sometimes those can be complicated and hard to decide on. If you're trying to get ready for the election, you might want to attend this. This is at 5:30 to 7:30 tomorrow, and it's on the Ventura College campus. So it's an easy location for us to get to. It's at Guthrie Hall, 4667 Telegraph Road. And we are not sure whether they are going to videotape that one or not. We're trying to find out, but we're not sure if that's going to be available afterwards. That is just face-to-face. It is not on Zoom. I'll also post a link for this event in the chat as well. Kathy, what else?
The one last thing on that, Russell, I
Yeah.
will note they're gonna go over pretty much everything on the ballot except the judges. No one has a good clue on how to research judge choices, just FYI.
Yeah. Yeah, they're going to go over the ballot, and they're also going to provide information on how you can find additional resources. If you want to continue to explore some of the topics that are on there or the races that are on there, they're going to help us to understand where's the best place to get that kind of information. So I think it could be very useful. Something else, Kathy?
Well, tomorrow night's a busy night. There's a housing forum with city council candidates that will be held starting at 6:30 at the Unitarian Church on Ralston. So that's kind of conflicting with the ballot measure program tomorrow evening.
Yeah.
There's just a lot going on in Ventura leading up to this election. The other thing I wanted to just say to everyone is the bike path is the refurbishment of almost 2 miles of the bike path from Fix Dubbers all the way up to city limits is complete. There's lovely art on the flood wall up near city limits. Wonderful amenities, lights, new signage, any number, and the paving, it's just beautiful. So I would encourage everyone to go out and enjoy the bike path. What else do I have? There are some other meetings for those interested in the Santa Paula Branch Line Trail that's being planned 4 miles from Montalvo train station to Satacoy. There'll be a meeting at Montalvo School on October 1st, starting at 6 o'clock to do a presentation on the components and the renovations and all the amenities that will be included. And they'll be soliciting public opinion on what to include, and they'll have some options for various installations that you can select or offer suggestions. And that will be at Montalvo School at 2050 Grand Avenue in Montalvo. Ryan?
I had a question about the Politics 101 event. Who was, I might have missed it, Russell. Who was the one who's presenting that?
This is the Chamber of Commerce, specifically their Young Professionals Group in the Chamber of Commerce.
Okay. And then I've never been to those events before. Are they just presenting the actual ballots without any recommendations, or what does that look like?
They are not taking a position. At least that's what I understand. They're not taking a position. They're just going to go over them.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, the judges from the Court of Appeals used to do wonderful presentations on ballot measures. And I don't know, I can't remember the last time I attended one of those, and I don't know if there's any plan for that to happen now or in the future. So if anybody knows anything about that, please speak up.
Russell, I can confirm that this is not a position. The Politics 101 is an annual event that the young professionals for the Ventura Chamber put on. There are differing topics depending on what's going on in any particular year. This
Okay.
year, because there's an election, they are helping people read the ballot, figure out what the pros and cons are supposed to mean, find resources so that they can make independent decisions about how they'd like to vote about the different issues. Last year, the young professionals for their Politics 101 presentation had to do with affordable housing and the components that go into creating affordable housing, the pricing, the financing, and they brought in experts from different areas. The idea is to get the community's young professional group, because they're interested, up to speed with what's going on and understanding the decision-making process so that they can contribute in ways that are meaningful to them.
What a great program. Thank you.
Yeah, it sounds like a great service to the community.
Okay, there's one more thing that I wanted to mention. I think we discussed it last meeting, the new app called Ventura Connects, that you can either report issues in the community directly to the city on your mobile phone or using the city's website. So I will include that link in the notes that will take you to the website and the buttons that will allow you to download, will get to I think they have it on the App Store for iPhone and Google Play for Android. So I will include that in the notes. That's all I've got. Oh, and one more thing, just a notice that I hope everybody noticed the electric bike fax that came in their water bill. It pretty much explains in brief what's required for how the bikes work and what's required if you require a license or not, and what age you need to be to ride various types of e-bikes. Rob?
Who's next?
Okay, Rob.
Oh, boy. I think who hasn't spoken yet? Who'd like to go next? Aruha?
Hello, everybody. Can you
Moving
hear
on.
me? Oh, sorry. Okay, I got a thumbs up from Nadine. Thank you. Hi, everybody. My name is Maruha Clancy. I'm with the City of Ventura. You may know me from before being here on behalf of Supervisor Levere. I was his chief of staff for 4 years. Prior to that, I worked at the city as a senior planner. So it's great to be back again. And I'm here to provide an update on our general plan land use map survey. And I also have a daughter in the background, and I also have furry children in the background. So you may hear a myriad of noises as I do this. And so I'm going to share my screen. All right. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Thank you. So some of you may know we've been starting the working on the general plan since March 2020, and we all know what happened around that time. So it's been here quite a long time. We're going into a little over 4 years now, and we're close to the finish line. We had a land use map survey conducted in spring, and this is our second round with that survey. So when we released a map in April and May of this year, we threw out the net for general public comment, and got a lot of feedback that we need to take another look at this and do it again. And so that's what we're doing by way of this survey. With that outreach effort, we got nearly 200 comments, mainly with concerns related to zoning regulations, how they related to the underlying general plan designation and our 1989 comprehensive plan, which is our comprehensive plan that is applicable in our coastal zone because our 2005 general plan doesn't apply in the coastal zone. So this led the general plan team to rethink about general plan designations and how we're looking at the map by way of this additional comments. And also you'll see that QR code on every slide. You can scan that and it will bring you to the survey. So as a result of this additional feedback, we upped our designations from 31 to 34. And these actually mirror and more in line with our existing zoning designations. A result of this change actually came with our RE5 zoning designation, our general plan designation, to actually have lesser density and less height, which was what we were hearing a lot of concerns about from a lot of our community members. The 16 designations on the screen right there remain unchanged as a result of this. And again, what we had come out of this is primarily more opportunities and variety within our land use designations to mirror our existing zoning regulations. So when you go to this website here, you'll have a variety of resources that we would love for you to take a look at. The first is a technical background memo. It talks about the changes that we made since spring and how they were made, and we'd love for you to read that document first. Then our narrative that describes all of our updated land use designations and those that have remained unchanged. We have a high-res PDF land use map for you to look at. You can also print that out if you like having a hard copy like myself. We also have past reference maps. We have our former draft map that was from spring, and we also have the 2005 general plan map. And with that, we have an interactive online GIS system, so you can look at these actual parcels in real time with a legend to cross-reference how they're changing, if they are changing, and what that means. We also have this really cool feature called Story Map, and I'll walk you through that on another slide. That is a visual narrative showing different layers, turning on and off based on the accompanying narrative related to the plan that you're looking at or the exact changes within the land use designations that are being shown on the screen. And we also have an Excel spreadsheet that responds to nearly every 200 comments that we receive by way of this spring survey. We actually have that also tied to a GIS system where you can see if a specific parcel was called out by way of that comment, and if it's changed or where it is in the world of our community, it pins you to that exact parcel or area of our community. But the most important thing on this slide is our online feedback form. So again, we're really wanting to make sure that we get it right. We have to get it right. And this is an additional opportunity to get the community's feedback on the land use map that will effectively lay the foundation for our new general plan, which will be with us for the next 25 years. So this survey is very important, and we ask everybody to just take another look. If you have already, take another look if you have, 3 times if you can, just to make sure that we're capturing all the questions, concerns, and suggestions so we can make sure that we really are reflecting the true vision of our neighbors and the public in the city of Ventura. So when you launch into this land use map survey, we've divided our city into 8 different areas, and you can actually pin little like Google Map pins on different parcels within the subject area, and you can add a comment as to what you have to say about that parcel. Oh, this parcel actually is commercial when it, when you have labeled as residential. You are the subject matter experts when it comes to what's in your backyard. And so we need to lean on your granular knowledge of what is in relative to your community to make sure that we are accurately depicting that. There are, as I said, 8 different areas, and you can navigate through each area of our city. And at the end is a very brief survey for you to take about your age group, where you are in the city. Do you live in the city, or you just have property in the city? Just so we can further have those data points moving forward. And our feedback form is open till October 21st. So this is the story map feature, and it's a video, and I'm just going to play it for you. And effectively what it does is, while you just scroll down, it will start from, you know, what we are today with our updated land use map, what it was previously that we saw in fall that we then commented on in the spring. And then we go back to these reference maps that I was talking about, like the 2005 general plan. We've also added the 1989 comprehensive plan since launching this, so that is now there. Parcels that have the same land use designation as they were previously, parcels with new land use designations, along with an accompanying legend that has colors that you can correlate to what's changing on the screen. So next steps, as I said, the feedback survey is open till October 21st. Our next GPAC meeting, or General Plan Advisory Committee meeting, is November 18th, with our December one on December 2nd. We intend to dive into these comments at that time, and hopefully we'll also have our draft land use element released and our draft transportation element released. We'll also have another GPAC meeting in February, with that date still to be determined. We're really anticipating releasing our draft general plan in late 2024, followed by our draft environmental impact report in February of next year. Both of these documents will have ample public comment periods so that everybody can dive into these documents and provide additional feedback at that time. We're going to have a lot of additional community outreach in addition to the GPAC meetings. Really make sure we're giving everybody an opportunity to take a look at both of these documents, the draft general plan and the accompanying environmental document. And we anticipate beginning our adoption hearings in spring 2025. And what that will look like is a series of study sessions with our city council, probably 2 elements per session. There are 12 total in our general plan, so we'll probably do a series over 6 sessions. Mirroring that with the planning commission, it's going to be a busy year, at least for the first 6 to 8 months. But we really want to make sure everybody has an opportunity in every public forum possible to digest this, have comments, ask questions, and hopefully have an adopted general plan by end of summer, by end of summer, maybe fall, but we're hoping end of summer we'll have that adoption. Also, I want to take this opportunity to announce that we are opening a series of tenant and property owner collaborative workshops. Part of our housing element, which is a chapter in our general plan that has been certified by HCD, is the request to explore and consider a tenant protection ordinance. And we were asked by council to dive into this further with additional community outreach, and ideally before mid-November. So we're all systems go. We have 4 meetings total, 2 in person, 2 virtual. One of each will be in English with Spanish translation, and the other in Spanish with English translation. You can register as a stakeholder or want to find out more information by emailing the email address at the bottom of the screen. Our housing services manager, Leona Rollins, at lrollins@cityofventura.ca.gov. Our communications division is doing a full outreach with this, so you'll probably be seeing more of this in your social media feeds, your Visit Ventura emails that, or not Visit Ventura, our Ventura outreach emails that we do from our comms department, and hopefully in other community forums as we move forward with those. So October 19th is our first in-person meeting at Westview Village off Warner, and our second in-person meeting in Spanish will be at Juana Maria Elementary, and the 2 virtual meetings October 30th and November 14th. The in-person meetings are on Saturdays to hopefully get as much community participation as possible, and the virtual meetings, as you see, are in the evening on weekdays. So thank you so much for your time. I know you guys have a very busy agenda today. I really appreciate you making the time for me to announce our new land use map survey. If you want to talk more about it, please email planventura@cityofventura.ca.gov. I monitor that email along with a few other staff members. If you want to come in and talk about it, visit us during office hours, ask questions, more than willing to do so in person, over the phone, or through a virtual meeting, whatever is your pleasure. And I thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. That was great.
Thanks, Rob. Good to see
A
you.
lot of information.
Yeah.
You've been busy.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's nice to see you, though. Commissioner Corley.
Every once in a while.
Every once in a while. I had
Yeah.
the pleasure of being a senior planner while he was on planning commission. So I enjoyed his attention to detail and all the queries. It kept me sharp.
Have to get back in the game.
Yeah.
I have a question about cross-referencing the comments made on the original map that were made by parcel ID versus the new format where you just make comments on a parcel without knowing the parcel number.
Mm-hmm.
There's a cross-reference somewhere. Is that like your spreadsheet?
So for the former map you're talking about, the one that we actually had comments on that was released in fall, but we did the surveys in spring.
Right.
Yes, that is there. That was a request that we got at GPAC. I think you were there, Kathy.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Just the ability to cross-reference.
It is. It's
Oh,
there
okay.
now. Yeah, we did
Okay.
it. We listened and they
Okay.
were able to turn it around really quickly. It was
Wow.
it's pretty cool.
Oh, good.
Way above my head. I have no idea how they did it, but they made it happen.
Well, that's good because it would be confusing to read a comment about a parcel number, then not be able to go find it somewhere.
Absolutely. So we've made that cross-reference. If you go back to that Plan Ventura / updated land use map, the one with that list of materials, you'll see by the comments one, the comments like hyperlink. Further in that sentence will be another hyperlink that talks about a GIS reference map that will navigate you through those comments to connect to the specific parcels that are called out in one of those comments.
Okay, we'll give it a go.
Yeah, well, let me know if you have any problems and you know, I can walk you through a virtual meeting with it, or you can come on in and we can, you know, check it out on my computer.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kathy. Any other
Wow.
questions for me?
I just have a clarifying question, Ruva.
Sure. Hi.
The series, is it the same information for each one, or is there going to be different information for each of the dates?
So thank you for that question. It will be the same workshop format where we're going to have 8 different stations, and with that, different information regarding that subject. So we're going to have a legal services and right to counsel table, an evictions, just cause versus no cause table, displacement, relocation assistance, security deposits, tenant right to purchase information, anti-harassment information, rate stabilization, and then a section for new ideas. And so we're planning on having these stations, if you will, similar to like a charrette experience, where we're going to have informational posters, resources, comment cards, questions to ask, to really have a really organic forum of exchanging information, ideas, concerns, and questions. Then we're going to garner all that feedback and present it to council, hopefully November, December, probably December at this point, to really get direction, their feedback on how they want to go with a future tenant protection ordinance that we can hopefully take before the decision makers in early 2025, you know, February, March, that time frame.
Wonderful.
But the
Wow.
idea is that format will be the same, consistent. The online we're going to be doing differently. Obviously, you can't really have stations, but we will be doing like a polling series or a Q&A so we can garner that same kind of feedback and then synthesize that together for a presentation of information to our decision makers.
Wonderful. That's amazing. And my last question, we talked a little bit about that the general plan was updated for less density and less height. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
So the one density that primarily changes as a result is the R35 zone, which I think is technically called the neighborhood medium zone. And what it did is it dropped our prior designation by, I want to say, 5 density units, and then 5 feet in height or 10 feet in height. It was like 45 to 35 feet. And then with that, a corresponding loss of density in that multi-family residential land use designation. But going back to that plan, or that Plan Ventura updated land use map website, we'll have that technical that memorandum and then that land use designation document that will go in detail exactly what changed. But that was the primary, the biggest net difference, I think. That, and we also listened to the public in retaining a number of industrial parcels that were requested to maintain their industrial land use designation. Thank you for the question.
Absolutely, thank you.
I think downtown specific plan as well, correct?
The downtown specific plan, which has the existing land use designation of specific plan in some areas, is now going to be a general downtown specific planned land use designation. There is one caveat with that. The Mission Plaza on the corner of the Avenue of Main Street, we had feedback from council to make it a neighborhood center. So that will be part of the change within when we open up the downtown specific plan after the general plan, to bring that in to a unique general plan designation for that particular site.
Okay, great.
We'll
Thanks.
also be looking at the commercial tourist oriented zone as well within the downtown specific plan after the general plan.
Okay. Great, thank you.
It's a lot of planning, a lot of plans.
Looking at that map, I almost just started spinning in circles. It was a lot of work.
It is. So if anybody wants to talk about it further, or please come see me or Director Diamond at City Hall. I'll drop my phone number and my email in the chat too. Be more than willing to walk through it with you through the phone, on the computer, in person. I know it's a lot of information, and we're doing it every day, and and the general public isn't. So we want to make sure that we're able to really make it easy to understand so we can get great feedback.
Thank you much.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Maruha? Not, let's roll over to Cody, if you're ready.
Yes, I am. Hopefully everyone can hear me. I'm having a little bit of technical difficulties here. Can I just get a thumbs up from somebody if you can hear me all right?
Can hear you.
Great. Okay. Let me see if I can share my screen. Let's drop this into slideshow. All right, I am on the wrong page. One second, apologies. I usually use Teams for most of this kind of stuff. So let me see if I can just get out of here real quick like. All right. Again, apologies for that. So thank you, Kathy, for the invitation. My name is Cody Stoltz. I'm a civil engineer in the city's Public Works Department in the Engineering Services Division. And I'm joined today by, excuse me if this thing will work. There we go. Can everyone see this all right?
Yes.
Oh.
Thank you. Apologies for that. So I'm here to talk about the Surfers Point Management Retreat Phase 2 project. My name is Cody Stoltz. I'm a civil engineer in the Engineering Services Division of the Public Works Department. I'm joined today by Matt Meckler, the principal civil engineer for our division. So today I just want to talk a little bit about project background, some upcoming public art and community outreach efforts that are associated with the project, and then Matt will provide a general construction overview as well. So if you've been out to the project site, I'm sure you've seen this. The multi-use path has been failing for years. These are a couple of pictures that I've taken in the past year that I think really showcase the condition out there. You can see where some of the structural backfill has kind of eroded away, and how some of the paved path that used to exist out there is actually just fallen over into the ocean over the past 20 plus years. I think the picture on the left really showcases this well. You can see there's a little asphalt cap on top of that manhole. That's because that actually used to be part of a drivable path out there. It's a little hard to see from this picture, but there's actually about 10 feet of distance between that, the edge of that manhole and the edge of the multi-use path. So that really showcases the amount of erosion that's happened over the years and why this project is so critical. So this is the project area. It's along Shoreline Drive at the Surfers Point parking lot, right adjacent to that multi-use path that's been failing, and directly across from the fairgrounds parking area. And you can see it sits between the Ventura River estuary and the city of Ventura's parking lot in our right-of-way on the eastern end as well. So a little bit of project background. I'm sure if you've been in the city for a while, you're very familiar with the first phase of the project that happened back in 2012, 2013. That was long in the making. You can see after around 1995, when I was still in diapers, the original working group was convened to address some of the issues that we were seeing out there, because even back then, the multi-use path was failing and it was becoming a really significant issue. So the first phase was actually completed back in 2012 and addressing some of the issues directly west of the project footprint for phase two. And phase two is a continuation of that. And I'll talk a little bit more about details of what that looks like further on in the presentation. So you can see this is where phase one was completed, this outlined area. Same concept for phase two, the relocated the parking area and drivable path that was there inland about 65 feet. Reconstructed the shoreline with a buried cobble mattress and a dune habitat, and reconstructed a multi-use path for accessibility purposes along the coast. Phase two continues that directly eastward in front of the fairgrounds property, more directly, right in front of their parking lot. And it's going to remove that existing parking area. We're going to dedicate part of Shoreline Drive and make that a new parking lot that'll be owned and operated by the fairgrounds as well, and also some other site improvements, which I'll go into a little further on. So as I talked about, phase one included construction of a new seat wall along a new seat wall and multi-use path along the shoreline for accessibility purposes, some ADA access points and seating areas at the estuary, some public art and interpretive signage, the new bike path, and of course, the critical component of the erosion protection through that buried cobble mattress and dune habitat. Phase two is going to include construction of a new multi-use path parking area. It's going to include a couple of roundabouts as well, some new landscaping, lighting, drainage improvements, and of course, a public art piece as well. But I'll talk a little bit more about that in detail. This rendering is a general concept of what the project's going to look like. It's not exactly what it's going to look like, but it's pretty close. So this is just another exhibit showing where the phase one footprint was, and you can see where it's going to tie in on the phase two project on the eastern side along Shoreline Drive. I want to note that the phase two project is going to mirror very closely what was completed during the phase one project. So it should be just a pretty clean continuation of what was completed during the phase one project, with the exception of some additional site amenities, new pavement in the fairgrounds parking area, a new parking attendant station, the roundabouts, drainage improvements, lighting. It's a little more comprehensive project, and the idea was to complete phase two as a more complete project as a continuation of the phase one project as well. So this is just a site map showing generally what we're proposing. You can see there's some drainage improvements on the north side. There's new parking area. Just a footnote here, and I'll talk about parking a little bit further on in the presentation. But the existing parking area that you're seeing on the the northwestern side of the project is actually in the fairgrounds parking area. That's going to be paved and striped, and that's going to be used as overflow parking. So although we're removing the existing parking area directly adjacent to Shoreline Drive and abutting the coast where it's failing, we are dedicating Shoreline Drive and making that available parking, and also designating additional overflow parking. So we don't anticipate seeing a lot of loss of parking availability. In fact, we're anticipating quite a sizable increase. And this is what I was talking about. You can see the phase one parking area is shown in green there. That was what was complete in the initial phase. The purple is going to be that overflow parking. That's currently Fairgrounds property. And the way that's going to function, and I think this will actually work well for people, and we've done analysis to ensure that we have adequate capacity there, is that when the parking lot that's shown in green and the blue, the primary parking area fills up, the fairgrounds is going to keep that, except during special events, available as overflow parking. So if there's ever an issue with availability, that purple area is intended to be made available. And just a footnote here as well, just so that everyone's aware, the existing parking lot is owned by the Ventura Fairgrounds, and the dedicated section of Shoreline Drive will no longer be city right-of-way as well. That's going to be dedicated to the fairgrounds and will become their new parking area. So kind of an interesting component of the project, we're also including temporary surf check spots. There was a lot of feedback from a lot of the local surfers. They like being able to have an ability to drive up to the project site, excuse me, to the coastline and not have to pay for parking just to check if the conditions out there are amenable. So as part of this project, we're including 27 temporary surf check spots, 10, 15 minutes. You can drive up, drop your board in the water for a couple of minutes, or even just go take a look and figure out whether or not conditions are amenable for you to surf. And beyond the parking kiosk, which you can see directly westward of the surf check spots, that'll all be paid parking. And kind of an interesting side note, you can see that it looks like there's some little trucks running through the roundabout. I find this really interesting. We ran this program called Auto Turn. What it does is it evaluates turning radii for large vehicles to ensure that vehicles can access along a designed path of travel. And so you can see here that their turning radius actually crosses over those roundabouts. So those are actually drivable medians. So kind of an interesting component of the project as well. Another footnote, and of interest to anyone who has EVs, we are constructing 6 initial EV parking stalls in the parking area as well. And eventually, after the initial phase of the project's complete, we'll come back and install the remaining 6. But during the initial phase, we'll have 6 EV stations as well. So this is the real crux of the project, and this is really the intent behind it. As you can see, there's infrastructure that's been failing for years due to wave action and just long-term erosion. Just what's going to happen when you have coastal wave action occurring along shoreline. You have infrastructure abutting it. So the real concept for this project, we're relocating our infrastructure inland about 65 feet. And what's going to be in place there, once we've removed the multi-use path and all that backfill material, is we're going to build a buried cobble mattress. And we're going to cover that with native backfill and dune habitat material as well. And the intent behind this is, as seasonal tides come and go and material is eroded away or deposited on the site, that cobble mattress serves as erosion protection, protecting the infrastructure that sits behind it. The idea is make a more resilient coastline, long-term, more sustainable. It's been very successful in the first phase of the project, and we fully anticipate it's going to be just as successful for this phase as well. And we're pretty excited about it. And really, it's this tried and true method. The first phase of the project has really been iconic, and a lot of other agencies all across the country have tried to mirror this concept as well. It's been very effective, and it's been a very successful project. So we're going to be reconstructing, as I mentioned, the dune habitat along the shoreline with buried cobble mattress. This is generally the extent of it. You can see on the western end, we're going to transition into the phase 1 project. That's just to make sure that when we're placing material, it ties in cleanly to the other project. Frankly, doesn't look like an eyesore and also functions as intended. And then on the eastern transition, you can see where it's going to tie into that cobble revetment area that's been constructed out there. And we'll be doing the same process out there, just to make sure we have consistently along the shoreline and adequate shore protection. So kind of an interesting part of this project as well, the multi-use path is part of the Omar Rains Bicentennial Trail. And so what we're reconstructing is going to become a continuation of that path. Technically, the existing path that's falling into the ocean is also a part of that, but we're going to be reconstructing that, and it'll tie into the Omar Rains Bicentennial Trail. And that was a requirement of our grants agreement with the State Coastal Conservancy, who's funding the construction of the project. It's also just a really cool part of the project, I think, and really contextualizes this effort. So I mentioned project funding. Last year, we were able to secure a grant with the State Coastal Conservancy to fund the construction phase of the project. I'm sure you can imagine infrastructure is expensive, and frankly, without the availability of this kind of grant program, it would have been very difficult for the city to fund this project. But we were luckily able to secure a sizable amount of funding. And so we received our $16.2 million grant last year, and now we're about to be going into construction. So this is just timeline, a little bit of background on where we were and where we are now. We received authorization for the fair to award our construction contract. We did just award our construction contract August 20th to CA Rasmussen. And we're looking to start hopefully in the next few weeks with actually breaking ground and starting the construction phase formally. And Matt will talk about this a little bit further, but we're also doing some community engagement and developing some concepts for public art and making sure that we reach out to the general public to get some feedback on those items as well. And with that, I'll pass it over to Matt Meckler, the principal engineer for our division, to talk about public art and community outreach.
Unmute yourself.
Matt, are you there? So he might be having some technical difficulties, but that is totally fine. I can pick it up and keep going.
Here, I can go.
Oh, actually, he is right here. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
Sorry about that. Appreciate that. It's having technical difficulties. So I'm going to go over a little bit about the public art and our community outreach. There's $300,000 allocated for this project for public art. What is that public art and what is it going to be? Where is it going to be? What are the details of that? We're taking a lot of input from the community, and we're doing it through various methods of doing that. We also have community interest groups as shown right here on the screen. We've got the Coastal Conservancy, we've got our tribal representatives, we've got Surfrider, the County Fairgrounds, Beacon, we've got County Watershed, we have both state and city parks, we've got the Coastal Commission and the Friends of Ventura River, as well as other groups. Now, how are we getting all the community input? Well, there's a variety of ways we're doing that. Right, Cody?
Yeah, space bar.
And so here's an overview of how we're getting our public input to guide us towards what we're going to be doing for our public art. We've had a handful of we've had some pop-ups and some community presentations. We had a very successful one at the fairgrounds recently, where we had over 40 people show up, and we had PCLD, who is our consultant, as well as the city comms team, do a very good presentation on the project, more focusing on the public art that's going to be associated with the project. With that meeting, they allowed the attendees to download a survey and fill out a survey for public art and what they want. That survey actually then became available to all of the public after this meeting. But during the meeting, it was very informative. The consultants and our comms team also put together some very good visual aids. The visual aids were these poster boards that gave some guidance and asked for some very general direction from the public. Again, this was just kicking it off, and it was very general in what we were asking for. And then the public was able to grab stickers and vote according to what they wanted. Out of the surveys that we got 615 completed surveys. We've got many more surveys where people started filling it out and we didn't get a complete survey, but 615 completed ones. That's a very good amount of public input that we got. Also, when we had over 40 people show up to the meeting, we had a lot of really good face-to-face and one-on-ones with people who were able to communicate what their interests were, what their concerns were. So it was moving forward on a good place, and we got some good data from that. So is the community input completed? No, we still have the process that we're moving forward with. We still have the initial public feedback. We have another survey that we will be sending out. So the first round of project results we got, we're able to narrow down exactly kind of the type of details we wanted from the community. And so this time we're going to be having more of a narrowed focus, be sending it out, and that will be issued on the city website, and we'll be going through the comms team to get the word out on that as well. We'll have an arts and culture commission, a request for proposals, and a review panel for this art. And so there's still good opportunity for public input. And part of that public art isn't going in as the construction's going. The goal will be to have public art included at the end of the construction, but it might take place right when construction's completed, and then we'll have a good idea with an artist what the community directed us to do, and then that public art will be incorporated with the project afterwards. We did finish. Cody did an excellent job at project management, took the project through design, we advertised, and we awarded the project we took it to City Council and awarded the project to Rasmussen, which was a great project strength in that contractor did phase 1, and phase 1 is a very successful project. Not only do we have the same contractor that did phase 1, we also have the same construction management team that was here for phase 1 as well. So there are a lot of lessons learned from the first phase, and a lot of knowledge on what actually worked very well. And so all that knowledge and continuity is being carried over to phase 2. So there's a lot of strength going on with that. We are currently in the pre-construction phase. So we just finished executing the contract with the contractor. We're expediting this very quickly. This is a first of a project for the city, in that when we advertise the project, we set in place a time frame of when they actually had to start construction. So we've issued a notice to proceed, and the contracting days are actually taken away for the contractor already. That's a first for the city to expedite this. The goal is to get this project completed prior to Memorial Day of next year. And so we're still working out some details with the pedestrian detours. Pedestrian detours will have to be maintained throughout the course of construction. Additionally, we'll have to be maintaining access to the beach through the course of construction, and the details of how the contractor moves around the site and maintains all of that access. We're going through the details with them right now and having some very constructive meetings with the contractor. There's also other things that they have to get to us before we actually put shovels in the ground. And so that should all be taken care of in the next few weeks. And you'll actually see some people out there moving around. The updated schedule right now is construction's fall to summer of next year. But when the construction completes, that doesn't finish. That's not where we end it. Of course, we'll have that public art component as well at the tail end of it. But years after construction's completed, we've got obligations through our permitting and through the grant. We've got water quality monitoring that extends another 5 years after construction. We have beach erosion monitoring that extends 7 years after construction. And so this is a project we'll be monitoring well after the public sees that construction has completed. And Cody's touched on some of the parking. This was, even going in with the public art component of this was by far the biggest comment we've received from everybody. There is a challenge with this project. The first phase, Shoreline Drive's a dead end, and the first phase of this project was the very end of the dead end. We still allowed for all the parking of this current phase during the previous phase's construction. This time around, we're cutting off the dead end with construction much earlier on, where it's blocking off the entirety of all of the parking. So the challenge there was, where can we find the closest parking and create the least amount of inconvenience to the public? We work hand in hand with the fair to establish what you can see here in the chart is the yellow highlighted area called temporary designated parking during construction. It's not as convenient as the ultimate project will be and what it is out there today, but utilizing our resources and our connections is the best we can get and the closest we can get. There's also going to be temporary surf check location. And through that, we were working with the transportation department here at the city to try to restripe some of the elements of Shoreline Drive and maybe even open up some parking spots in the Surfers Point parking right now for the 15 or 20-minute parking, so we can maintain what is out there today as far as allowing some spots for temporary parking to check the surf. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Cody, the project manager, and we can answer any questions you have. I really appreciate the time. Thank you.
Yeah, and it looks like we were having some technical difficulties. Apologies for that. I'm more than happy to share the presentation with the group after the fact. But again, apologies, but I'm available to answer any questions you might have.
There's a hand raised.
Sure. Marilyn?
Marilyn, you're muted.
Sorry, this is off topic, but it's a quick question that's been on my mind. I'm an artist, art consultant, and one of our most famous sculptures in the city is Bust a Home over by the mall. And as most of you know, it probably needs redoing. It needs repainting. It needs to be brought back to its glory that it was. And I was just wondering if we could maybe have some little stickers or something around town for over there for people to fill out to contribute. Or I'm sorry if this is too much off topic, but a real quick answer, maybe direction for that one.
You know, I would strongly encourage you to reach out to our comms team. Jen Buckley is a good contact, and I can get you her contact information. She might be able to provide you a little better direction than I could on how to post how to get some of that information, how to post some of that information as well.
All right, if you
I'm
get that to
thinking she'd
Kathy,
probably be the best person to talk to rather than me.
what's her name again?
Get it to Kathy, you said? Jen
Yeah,
Buckley?
Kathy can forward to me, right, Kathy?
Yeah, Jen Buckley. I'll take care of it, Marilyn.
Okay, thank you. Sorry to be off topic.
No, no problem at all. Thank you for the question.
I understood, I think at the Surfrider meeting, that there were some people from not just across the US. I know that this project phase 1 has been used as a national model for beach erosion and dealing with climate issues. And I understood that there were some people coming from maybe France or some other countries actually to speak to you about this project. Has that occurred? And
So Kathy, we were not there. Beacon was actually speaking to some of those representatives. Brian Brennan's obviously a great advocate for the project. And I know that he was speaking with them as well. The city was not present for that conversation, but I do know that there's been a lot of interest, and we've had inquiries from everyone from UCSB to even some out-of-state folks who've expressed interest in even touring the project, getting some additional information. So there's been a lot of interest, and it's as you alluded to, Kathy. It's because the project, at least phase 1 specifically, has been very successful. It's really been an iconic example of what coastal resilience can look like and what it should look like going forward as we deal with the impacts of sea level rise and continuation of infrastructure eroding that was built even in the 1950s and 60s that cannot hold up to the sea level rise impacts. And really, they were just never built to be as sustainable as we would like. And so again, lot of really global interest in this project, and it's really been a hallmark of what coastal resilience should look like.
yeah, well, nobody envisioned what's going on today in 1950. Well, if they did envision it, it was only a few engineers. Jim?
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Jim.
Yeah, okay, there we go. Hey, thanks, Cody. That's a great presentation. It's an amazing project. I've spent the last 60 years along that coastline, and I think this will be the icing on the cake to see it completed. I did have one question. Are there going to be any shade trees or any continuation of the tree rings with palm trees, which are real nice, except for the fact the beach is eroding at the Surfers Point parking lot area? But is there going to be any place for shading and sitting and actually using the beach? Because once you get up to phase one, some of the beach is usable. Most people want to stay off the indigenous planting so it holds the beach in place.
So there's actually a pretty comprehensive planting plan. We're both removing trees, especially those that are not suitable for the new habitat there, but we're also planting quite a few as well. I don't have an exact number handy, but I'm more than happy to share that with the group as well. We're doing quite a bit of planting. There's a huge landscaping effort as well. So the dunes that are going to be constructed, they're also going to have dune habitat. So we're introducing seed mixes into the sand that's going to be placed as well. And part of the idea for that is when those plants become established, their root structures actually help hold the dunes themselves together. It's a really great concept. As those roots really build into the dunes, as wave run up and overtopping happens, it breaks against those plants, against their foliage, and against their root structure, and protects it. So it's gonna look green. It's gonna look very similar to what's happened with the phase one project. So plantings interspersed along the sand dunes, but again, we're also going to be planting quite a few trees along the coast, and I'm more than happy to share that with the group. I will say on the east end, where we're talking about those planters that are failing, we're actually removing one of those planters. And the reason for that is just it's not sustainable long term, and it actually impedes delivery of the project. So some of the grading work that needs to happen for the phase two project is actually going to be in that footprint. So one of them is coming out. We don't anticipate putting a lot of those ringed planters for exactly the reason that you alluded to, Jim. But they're difficult to maintain. Someone has to be out there to maintain them. And frankly, for coastal resilience purposes, it's not really sustainable for us to build that kind of infrastructure along the coast any further. We have to anticipate that we're going to be having wave run up, overtopping, erosion issues as sea level rise continues over the years. So that wasn't considered to be a really sustainable option for plantings along the coast anymore. And frankly, over the last, and I'm sure you've seen it over the years, we've had to actually shore up some of those planters as well and build cobble and revetment against them. And Coastal Commission specifically, but also just as a best practice, coastal armoring isn't really the way to go going forward. And so we try to avoid that wheresoever possible.
Great, sounds good. Thank you.
Nadine?
Is Paul Jenkins still involved in the project?
Absolutely. Actually, we presented to the Surfrider Foundation, and Kathy, I know, was there. I think it was first week of September. So yeah, he's been involved really from the inception of the project. I know it was his pet project back when I was in diapers. So he's been involved throughout, and he's part of our stakeholder working group, Surfrider Foundation, Beacon, Ventura County Fairgrounds. All the original players are still involved, with the exception of a couple who have been engaged with but haven't been as active recently. But yeah, Surfrider Foundation heavily involved. Paul Jenkins himself, of course, specifically. So long-term project partner. Actually, I need to give him a call. That reminds me. But he's been very engaged.
Great to hear. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it came up at the meeting that Surfrider had volunteers pulling invasive plants from phase one, and it came up whether or not Surfrider would be involved in doing some of the same work for phase two.
Yeah, we spoke with them briefly about that even after the meeting as well. And they were heavily involved in that process during phase one implementation. And there's going to be a need for that for phase two as well, frankly. And it's a really great opportunity for us to engage directly with project stakeholders in a way that they actually have direct benefit to the project post-construction. So I know that they're interested, and we're talking with them about what that'll look like once the project's completed. I mean, personally, I think it's a great idea, and frankly, it saves us some project costs as well. And volunteers are interested in making sure those invasive species don't really develop along the shoreline, and so we're very interested in engaging with them on that effort as well.
I think it was like blue rocket or purple rocket thistle, and pretty gnarly on the hands. I pulled quite a few of those.
Yeah, there are some full dumpsters with
Right.
some of
Yeah, I
that
mean, we have,
stuff in it.
unfortunately, especially. Yeah. Great. Any other questions for us?
Nadine, do you have another question? No.
Okay, well, thanks a lot, Kathy, for the invitation. Again, apologies for the technical issues on our end. I'll share the presentation with the group if you could distribute it too, just so in case there was anything that was missed due to presentation issues, potentially you guys will all have that available. And as always, the project has transitioned into the construction phase. So I'm no longer the direct project manager, but I'm always available to answer questions if anyone has any. So thanks a lot for the time, and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
That was good. Wow. That's a lot of information.
No,
let's
what a
see.
great project. It's awesome.
So let's see, we are down to Mike Johnson. It's your chance to talk.
All right. Well, I'm a short timer on council, and for various reasons, we only had one meeting earlier in September, and our next meeting is not for another 2 weeks. So it's almost like having an unplanned month vacation from council right now. But first, I want to thank both Maruha Clense and Cody Stoltz for being here tonight. They these are two wonderful employees. I cannot tell you how saddened I was when Maruha left and how glad I was when she came back. And Cody has always done a fantastic job. And I have said, Cody's one of our best employees at giving presentations to community groups, which is a very important skill. And so I'm so happy to see them here tonight. I wanted to bring up the SSTF forum and just give a plug for that tomorrow night at 6:30 at the Unitarian Universalist Church there on Ralston. Long before I ran for council, I attended pretty much all the candidate forums for many years. And people at this college area community council heard me saying this 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 years ago. If you are going to attend just one forum, that is the forum you should attend, because it's really on one topic and you really get a sense of where somebody stands on the issues. There will be a number of candidates there, but they will have time to talk, and you will absolutely get a sense of what type of leader they are, where they're coming from, what their motives are. It is always the best forum. And then let's see, before I forget, speaking of events, I will put these in the chat. I have a couple of my meet and greet events coming up. So we have them in the chat. Saturday, that's this Saturday at 1 p.m. You can meet me for coffee at Palermo downtown. And then on Sunday, October 6th at 6 p.m., Rincon Brewery, they're at Telegraph in Ashwood. This is something I am really going to miss, are these meet and greet events. They are always a good time. I always learn something at them. And I hope that with some new blood on council, that we will see more council members reaching out to the community to get a sense of what's going on. So a little bit of what's happened at council. It's been a while since we had a meeting, but really the biggest issue I would say was at our last council meeting, and this was on the topic of tenant protections, which you heard Ms. Clense talk about. Our housing element does say that we will have tenant protections done this year, and that didn't happen. And staff came to council with, well, this didn't happen, we're behind. This is the work plan that we want to use to get through and get some stuff on board next year and get us caught up on what we committed to in the housing element. My colleagues decided that was too much, and they stripped out everything except the community meetings. So the community meetings are going to be very important. There will not be tenant protections if there are not a lot of people showing up at those meetings. And when I talk about tenant protections, nobody's talking about rent caps. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about basic things like, a rental registry so that we can keep an eye on when people are being evicted illegally or facing illegal rent increases. We're talking about things like making sure that tenants actually have some sort of legal resource when their landlord violates state law, which it's more than one apartment complex in the city where that has been the case. And I will tell you, as somebody who has paid for attorneys for tenants, it is incredibly difficult to find an attorney who is willing to represent tenants who also has the time. Because any attorney that is willing to represent tenants is, can take only a tiny fraction of the people that call them up. So all plans for tenant protections were put on hold. And the idea is we're going to instead have meetings to talk about whether or not we want to talk about in the future what tenant protections might look like. It's very disappointing. And so I really encourage you to be at the Social Services Task Force and Homes for All candidate forum tomorrow night, because I'm sure that will be an important topic. We were talking a little bit about the college and the numbers of people and traffic. I don't know if y'all realize this, but huge numbers of college students are riding in Gold Coast. And this is because we have the College Students Ride Free program. And Gold Coast is one of those few transit agencies that has recovered its ridership to pre-COVID levels. I would not be surprised if this month would be a record month for boardings for Gold Coast Transit. And if you drive by the college, and I drive by the college all the time, you will see that there are a lot more people at those bus stops. What happened was we lost at Gold Coast. I'm chair of the board of Gold Coast. We lost about 25% of our ridership and going through COVID. We gained all that back, and most, but not all of it, is college students and youths, because we have the Youth Ride Free program and we have the College Students Ride Free program. And these apply throughout the county. So any youth or college student can get on a free ride anywhere on any of the public transit, anywhere in the county to get where they need to go. And so as somebody who rides the bus, I try to ride it about once a week. There are times where I'm waiting for the number 6 bus, and there are a lot of people there, and not everybody gets on the bus. And I'm one of the people, I'm one of the people that the operator has had to say, sorry, recognize me, sorry, Director Johnson, we're full. You're gonna have to wait for the next bus. Gold Coast is in the position where, like on the number 6 line, we have extra buses that run as like shadows, as ghosts, those extra buses to just keep people from having to wait another 20 minutes for the next bus. That is the problem that Gold Coast is facing. It's not lack of ridership. It's really just the resources and making sure that we do this. The Youth Ride Free and College Ride Free program has been a lifesaver for Gold Coast. And what is so amazing to me about this, and the reason I will continue to fight for this forever, I think every agency in the state should be looking at this. I think the state should be telling agencies to look at this, because what we are doing is we have all these young people that now ride the bus as a matter of course.
Yeah.
And I know some of you have not ridden on a bus in 10 or 20 or 30 or 40 years. when somebody has never ridden the bus before, it is very hard to get them on the bus for the first time. And I do these meet and greet events, and I say, if you ride the bus, I will buy you a beer, I will buy you a taco, whatever. And people do take me up on it, but it's never been somebody where it was their first time riding the bus. It's people who've ridden the bus before who will ride the bus. So we absolutely are doing a better job with traffic around the college because of what's happening with Gold Coast Transit and VCTC. And I really hope we can keep that program growing. If you know that the school district is a big driver of traffic. I live right by Buena High School. There are more kids at the bus stops and multiple bus stops. They spread out to make sure that if the bus gets crowded, they will go kind of upstream to make sure that they're going to get on a bus. There are so many more students. Imagine if we ended that program, how much worse traffic would be in Ventura. It is making a demonstrable difference. And so you will be hearing from me, I'm sure, after council when I'm making sure that we do everything we can to keep this program going. Okay. Any questions on this stuff? Nadine.
Have a meet and greet on the bus and show people how to do it.
It's
Give them the app.
tricky. It's tricky. I originally wanted to do that, and I sat down with Gold Coast and we tried to figure out how to do this, and it ended up being really, really tricky.
I tried to show a few people
yeah,
on the bus
yeah.
and they said no.
Yeah. Maybe I'll try to figure something out before I go. What it would have to be is we'll meet at a bus stop. And we'll all have to meet at a bus stop, and you'll have to be there at the bus stop to get on the same bus with us. Yeah. Yeah. It's also tricky because federal railroad law means that everybody has to pay their fare. I can pay their fare. It's a whole goofy, complicated thing. Yeah. Thank you. Any other questions?
Not yet.
Okay. All right. So coming up at council at our next meeting on October 8th, one of the things we're going to be talking about is redoing our street vendor ordinance. We have a real serious problem with street vendors in the city. We have had outbreaks of foodborne illness from street vendors. We have people that absolutely they have a hot dog cart and they go out and they do that. We also have outfits that work across 3 or 4 counties where people are bussed in or driven 2 or 3 hours to get here. They're working for less than minimum wage. And if we shut them down, if we shut those places down, then we might have 6 or 8 guys that need somebody to drive them back to Riverside. So this has all been very difficult to deal with. On the west side in particular, we've had real problems with waste, food waste, by which I mean gallons of grease and all sorts of meat just dumped into the gutter.
Ew.
The problem, and we will have a street vendor ordinance that will give us as much power as we can take under state law, but I will tell you that this really has to be addressed by Sacramento. Sacramento passed something called like the Safe Vending Act, and it really took the approach of the people selling stuff on the street are all entrepreneurs. You can't criminalize it. You shouldn't be harassing them. But the reality that we have is that these are not small entrepreneurs. A lot of them are people that are not even being paid minimum wage. And my dad worked organized crime, and I will tell you that when I have a restaurant tell me that they're thinking about closing for restaurant service because of the taco stand on their street, and they won't officially complain because they're scared of those people, when our county health department will not show up to write them up unless they have armed police officers or sheriff's deputies there with them, I'm very concerned about this. So we will see if we can get Sacramento to do something to make this better. It's a real problem. Just in downtown, there was a guy, and he'd get into screaming matches with people. And we've got Main Street Moves, and we charge the restaurants money to use those parklets. And he shows up with a couple propane grills and starts selling hot dogs and tacos. And he's in front of a business that doesn't want him there. The state makes it very hard for us to move him along. And so we have that coming up at our next meeting. On October 15th, we will be hearing a policy consideration of mine, which is on traffic mitigation fees. And I don't know how this will go. This is long overdue. And I'm going to get into the weeds here because this is crazy. So we currently have a traffic mitigation fee ordinance. Any development has to pay. They do a study to find out what the impacts on traffic will be, how much it would cost to mitigate the impacts of traffic. You look at like Haley Point over there in Midtown, that was such a controversy. A lot of townhomes going into sort of behind a neighborhood on what was industrial property. And the neighbors were all understandably concerned about how this would have an impact on traffic. So you do a traffic study. You say these are the impacts. It's going to cost this much to mitigate them as best we can. We collect the money from that developer. The thing is, we collect the money from that developer. We put it in an account and we can't spend it. Maple Courts on Mills. We'll do a traffic study. It is going to have a huge impact on Mills. We will collect money from them and we'll put it in an account and we will not use it. And that's because under our current ordinance, which dates back from 1986, we are only allowed to use traffic mitigation money on a certain list of projects. And there's only one project left on that list, and that is the Olivas Park extension. When we agreed to start doing the Olivas Park extension in 2018, the idea was it was going to be an $8 million project, and we had $6 million of traffic mitigation set up, and the property owners were willing to build the levee that would mean that the land around there was actually usable, taken out of the floodplain. Now we're at a point where we're looking at what may be a $50 million project, and we have $6 million to pay for it. And the property owners don't want to build a levee. And we are still collecting money and putting it away for this project. We will always be collecting traffic mitigation money and putting it towards that project because we will never pay off that $50 million otherwise. If we go ahead with that project, I think we should kill that project because the property owners decided they don't want to do the levee. So I'm proposing a radical solution, which is that we pass a traffic mitigation ordinance that conforms with state law. That's all. Our traffic mitigation ordinance was in 1985. In 1986, state law changed and said, if you're going to collect traffic mitigation fees, you have to use it to mitigate traffic problems caused by that development. We just have this old grandfathered in traffic mitigation ordinance, and that money sits there, and the money we get investing that is far outpaced by the increases in costs of building things. We've all heard about how, well, yes, of course, the budget on that doubled. It's because of inflation. We're taking all this money and we're just socking it away for a project that probably will never be built. And what we're not doing is we're not spending it on infrastructure improvements in the development where we need the infrastructure improvements. So that's my pitch for what I have coming up on October 15th. On October 22nd, Main Street Moves. We will be hearing about the results of the survey of property owners and the survey of business owners. And I'm sure that it's going to turn out that more of them like it than not. But the question for council is going to be what to do with that. I don't know that we will reach a decision. My guess is that if we were to kill Main Street Moves, and there are very good reasons to do that, that we would keep it open through the holidays. But I would say, I'm not going to predict whether or not Main Street Moves will exist beyond that. So That's what's coming up on various council meetings. The last thing I wanted to say about the election coming up, we've got 5 candidates, and that means somebody could win this race with 21% of the vote. I encourage you to vote and vote wisely and talk to your friends and get them to vote, because 21% is not great. And the problem we always have in these council races is how many people that don't vote. And so just get people to at least read the candidate statements and pick one, so that if somebody does win with, let's say, 30% of the vote, they did get a lot of votes instead of people just, leaving that one blank. Okay, so that's all I have. I will say it has been a pleasure doing these things. I think I've got one more as a council member, and that'll be in October. But it's been wonderful. So, questions about traffic mitigation fees, Main Street moves, street vendors, ranked choice voting, how to make kettle corn, whatever.
Well, we need to mitigate Maple Court because Mills Road will be impassable. It's impassable right now during the holidays. So, given where I live, it's the primary way out from where I live. So we will all be tempted to go west to Seaward, go down to Main Street, and then to go east, southeast, because Mills will be impassable. So we do need to do something about that.
We do. I will say this, one of the improvements that you will see to traffic in the next few years is we are moving all of our traffic signals to being smart signals. For example, like the 5 Points intersection, those aren't smart signals. They're dumb signals. When we have everything all hooked up and computerized, it will be a lot easier to make sure that traffic flows better on a place like Mills. But Mills is obviously well used, and it's not just during the holidays, it's certain times of day. It's Anacapa as well. The times when Anacapa is opening or closing, it's very difficult to get through there. There are, I'm sure, improvements that could be done, but yeah, the city, if we don't change course, the city will collect traffic mitigation fees. And I'm talking about, a lot of money, and then stick it in an account that might or might not get spent over by Johnson Drive.
Yes, that does need to be fixed.
Yeah. Hi, Brian.
Hi, Mike. It's interesting because we were just talking about traffic earlier, and then an accident happened again like 30 minutes ago. This cross street is crazy tonight. But just FYI, I just had a comment. Santa Barbara County Public Health, we work with Ventura Public Health. And the code enforcement in Ventura is investing about, I think, $2 million in dealing with street vendors. Now, we have a different approach in Santa Barbara. I think it's that Ventura is kind of doing things in a way that's more.
Let's be clear, Ventura County,
yes. Ventura County is doing a
Yeah.
little bit more on just kind of addressing it direct, whereas I think more education needs to happen, because I don't know if everybody really understands that there is a deeper kind of operation that happens with the street vendors. I think people have this understanding that, the street vendors are mom and pop shops that are just trying to have a small business, and that's just not the case. So, a lot more education, I think, needs to be had before we start doing a lot more enforcement.
Well, and the county is an incredibly important part of this, because we don't have health codes in the city. We just rely on the county for that. So yeah. And again, it's hard to overstate how big the operation is with the red pop-ups. And counties that have done this, and I'm talking about LA County, Orange County, Riverside County, San Bernardino County, and Ventura County. where it's this one group, you know, when they've gone and confiscated trucks, they put the trucks in a yard, and then the same crew shows up with basically more trucks a week later, because it's a fleet. You know, somebody owns a fleet of these vehicles and is employing thousands of people to do this. And yeah, you know what I would really like to see for the street vendors is a way to just give them a warning and say, look, you know, you're making a mess this time. A way to essentially do a write-up and say, you know, we're going to figure out a way to track and see if you come back again, and then we would bring the hammer down on you. But I honestly don't know that we're going to be able to even do anything until the county came out with a plan to spend $2 million. I will say this, that was 4 months ago that they announced it, and I haven't seen any of that money being spent yet. So it's going to require the county, and it probably is eventually going to require things like impounding vehicles, impounding equipment, and driving people back home at 10 o'clock at night because we shut down their place of employment. Nobody wants the guys working those places nobody wants to screw up their job, but that's what we got to do.
What about educating the public like the city has done with homeless issues? If a homeless person asks for money, don't give money, offer them food. How about letting the public know that these are dangerous places to eat and people have gotten incredibly ill and the public should avoid these places?
So the city doesn't want to, that's a county thing. That is absolutely something that county should be doing.
Okay.
It's not something that the city is doing. You know, but we don't touch health stuff. Nadine?
These trucks making enough money to even be worth the drive? I mean, people
Yeah.
are paying enough money to keep them in
Yeah.
business.
Yeah. Well, when you consider that, you know, their costs are almost nothing compared to what an actual restaurant pays for their lease, for their insurance, for their employees. You know, they're essentially restaurants with almost no overhead. And so, you know, if you go down to the one, let's say the one at Target, you see a lot more people at that red pop-up than you see at the Firehouse Subs that's right there. They're getting more business, they're making more revenue than the Firehouse Subs, and they have a lot lower costs. And I'm guessing that the people that have that Firehouse Subs franchise really don't appreciate that. Now, nobody's talking about, you know, like the people selling flowers on the street. That's not what we're talking about. Nobody has a problem with that, I don't think. But the food stuff and like the guy downtown on Main Street getting in screaming matches with the business owners is a problem. Yeah. So that's all I got. That's all I got. We're done. Where's Rob?
Wow. Is this going to be on the test at the end or? A lot of material. Thank you, Mike. Any questions? Anyone? Well, I'll have to think about this a bit, but we do appreciate your insights and your willingness to take on these issues. We can all ignore them, but somebody's got to deal with it, and you're leading the way. So with that, last round, anybody comments? Thank you all for being here, and we'll call it a night. Thank you, Bob.